Let's welcome in our Friday Five for this July 24 from the first half hour, the Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob.
Hello, William.
First 30 minutes was a lot of fun. Good to see Mike back here again.
You had a scowl on your face for 45 minutes.
I did not.
45 out of 60 minutes Mike was here, you looked like you had foot cramps.
I was in deep thought, Rob. Deep thought.
You want to know what he was thinking?
He was thinking, I wish capital punishment was in law now. That voice belongs to New York Times bestselling author, several times over, John Gilstrap.
Good morning.
Longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Great to be here and welcome back.
How are your cards, Dan? Thank you, sir.
Oh, your Pirates are a half game ahead of the Cards now after yesterday.
You know, I can't complain. They went through, I think, about a 24-game stretch where they played, I think, 6 first-place teams. And they actually finished above 500 in that stretch, whereas most of us thought they'd be about 10 below 500 at this point. They actually competed well.
So they moved into third place in the Central Division.
If we can get a closer, we might be able to compete. Let's also say good morning to a former member of the House of Delegates, former Deputy Revenue Secretary, Vietnam War veteran, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, and if the Nationals can get an entire bullpen, they'll make it.
Certainly they hit well. they and the Pirates, I think, were the top 2 run-scoring teams in the league last I looked.
Yeah.
Via telephone conference, Mr. Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti, attorney at law.
Good morning, fellas. You know, can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, you're doing great.
I didn't get any response. I guess good morning back.
We thought there was more to come.
Well, I was just going to, I would make one comment, Rob. You know, a closer costs money, and that seems to be in short supply with our Pirates.
Well, closers do cost some money. But, you know, in the past, the Pirates have had some pretty good closers, and it's the recent past, too. They, unfortunately, give them away like they're $5 bills.
Yeah, they now pitch for the Yankees.
Yeah, too many of them. Great point. Hey, in terms of national days, this July the 24th is Pioneer Day. It's National Amelia Earhart Day. Ask an Archaeologist Day, which is somebody I don't know.
What are we supposed to ask the archaeologist?
What is this bone? I don't know. What does this look like?
Do you have a bone to pick with me, sir?
Maybe. That's a possibility. It's a National Day of Motoring, and it's also National Tell an Old Joke Day.
Oh, God.
So, does anybody have an old joke they'd like to share?
I don't think I know a single radio-appropriate joke.
Well, I will tell you an old Italian joke. All right? Joe, keep your ears on. All right? So
I'm here. I'm with you.
A grandson goes to his grandfather. This is an adult grandson. He's in his teens, 20s, and the grandson says to the grandfather, "Before you die, Grandpa, I would love to have that wristwatch that you have." And the grandfather says, "I always thought that I would give you my favorite, the gun. It's a great gun. I've used it, hunted with it. I think you do better with the gun than the wristwatch." He says, "Grandpa, I really like your wristwatch. I'd really rather have your wristwatch." He said, "My grandson, I tell you this. You'd rather have the gun. I'm going to tell you why. You're a younger man now, but one day you're going to grow up and be a grown man. You're going to have a wife. You're going to have a family. You're going to have kids. And you're going to go off to work. And your wife is going to be home. And one day you're going to come home. And your wife is going to be in a bed with another man. What are you going to do? Look at your watch and say, 'Time up'?" Take it, the gun.
Your turn, Joe.
No, I can't come near that one.
All right, with issue number 1, Mr. Ferretti.
Rob, and a pleasant good morning to you from Western Pennsylvania, where I'm here visiting with my mom. I flew into Greater Pitt last night, and let me tell you, that new airport, if you have not seen it yet, it is quite something.
And who do you see when you land at the Greater Pittsburgh Airport? What are the statues?
It was a great controversy because they didn't know where they were going to locate it. But yes, the statue of Frank O'Hara's completing the Immaculate Reception is prominently displayed.
Beautiful. You have George Washington and Franco Harris. Those are the two statues at the airport.
Hey,
No
Rob,
lie,
it's
no
a
lie.
pit-
Hey, what about Ralph Kiner?
No statue.
No.
No statue. At the airport, it's George Washington and Franco.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Pittsburgh thing.
Yeah. All right, Joe, you're on the clock, baby.
Okay, well, let's talk about Flock cameras this morning. And, I went to their website and just to learn a little bit about what the company is saying about this product. And they advocate that this is something that's going to connect our communities and businesses and public safety departments across the country so that incidents, I don't know what those are, but they say incidents can be better understood and decisions made regarding those incidents based upon the facts. They tout the fact on their website that over 10,000 missing people so far using Flock cameras have been located. They are currently in over 12,000 communities across the country. And as we've heard here in the last few weeks, the towns of Huntington and Morgantown are currently either installing them or having debates about their installation. I suspect they'll be coming to the Eastern Panhandle if those discussions aren't already taking place. And the towns of Huntington and Morgantown have told their residents, look, we're going to have local controls built in to these cameras that are going to be placed up on these telephone poles, and that we're going to be looking for vehicles. There's going to be a hot list, if you will, of vehicles that they're looking for. And these cameras, which effectively read license plates and identify cars by make and model, they're going to collect video, and that video is going to be reviewed most likely by public safety departments, i.e. the police, and the information then will be used to find people who might be wanted, who might be under suspicion, or who might be doing something nefarious with their automobile. Now, Flock also touts the fact that in addition to these license plate reading cameras, they also have audio detection, they have drone surveillance, a whole array of equipment that can be used by law enforcement or government officials. And I experienced something myself when I visited Columbus here not long ago. My children live in Columbus, Ohio, and they have something called Shot Source, which is a audio detection device mounted up on telephone poles, and it records gunshots and reports that information immediately to the police, who then can respond to the location of the gunshots. Flock cameras and the Flock company has that information available also, and that kind of equipment. So I guess the question this morning is, are we willing to sacrifice a little liberty here for security? Because that's the question each of these communities is going to face. The ACLU has come out and said, look, this is not good. There's lacking in regulations on the use of this equipment. The data, which is so important, that's gathered by Flock, there's no regulation stopping the selling of that data to corporations, to businesses who might want to know about foot traffic or vehicle traffic in terms of their marketing efforts, in terms of where they place businesses. So that information could be commercialized very easily by corporate America, and there's no regulation on that. In the last year, 60 municipalities have canceled their contracts with Flock because of these concerns about the lack of regulation and how this data is going to be used. So the question I want to put to the panel this morning is, what do you think? Is this something that our communities in the Eastern Panhandle should be looking at seriously? Is it a law enforcement tool that we're going to need in the future to be more effective with our policing? Or are there concerns about privacy and liberty that are at stake?
And before we get going here, John Gilstrap, on June 30th, we had Nate Maloney on. Remember Leonardo, U.S. Cyber and Security Solutions. Mm-hmm. Is this?
Oh, it absolutely is tied in this. Yeah, that was tied. That technology that Nate was talking about was for the LPRs, license plate readers that are on many cop cars now. There's a new technology that gets tied into that where it will read every chip that is on you or around you. If you got your dog in the car, it will take care. It will register the dog's tag, the tag you have for the speed pass to go on the toll road. It will track that. In this case, we go with the flock cameras. This is designed. There's a difference between providing security and actively trying to catch people in the act of doing something wrong. And I think it's fundamentally inappropriate. I don't know if it's extra constitutional or not, but we do have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think there's a codicil unwritten that says without being spied on. And this is the new drumbeat that we're seeing more and more with the FISA warrants that have been, I would argue, misused. We see we want to. The more the government wants to track what its people are doing, the more we should fear that the government is tracking what we're trying to do. The facial recognition software that's available is amazing. I don't know if, Joe, I don't know what your trip was like going through the airport. Last time I went through the airport, it's like you don't slow down.
Oh, no. Yeah.
The facial recognition cameras are everywhere. So when you get to TSA, you look in the camera and they say, "Have a good day, Mr. Gilstrap," and you walk through. I mean, it really. Yeah. Last time I was at Dulles Airport, from curb to past security, I didn't check any luggage. Past security was maybe 5 minutes.
Wow, that's like the old days.
It is like the old days. Now, that's a situation that I have chosen to go into a hyper-secure facility and do a hyper-secure thing. I don't have a problem with that. But if I'm walking down the street, I don't want a camera to be able to say that John went to the bank at such and such a time, or that John visited the loan shark, right? Or if you go back to the COVID days when everybody was spying on each other, John took his mask off between 1st Street and 4th Street, and we need to go after him because he violated the law. I think that's kind of the way we're going here. In my experience, and I'm a cynic on these things, any way that we can track people ultimately comes back to hurt the people, whether it's by political misuse or misuse by the police. I think we need to get rid of these things.
How many points did your loan shark charge you?
Well, actually,
and we know that already.
I got to be really careful going to my car. Let's just say that.
I'll give you a better rate next time. Give you the friends and family.
Yeah, the Irish loan sharks just aren't as imaginative as the Italian ones.
If that's the word you want to use. Mr. Carl.
Well, as someone who learned about constitutional rights with a classmate who's now on the Supreme Court,
Mr. Thomas.
Yes, I think that once you go into the public, leave your home, which is private. But once you go into the public, your right to being immune from being identified or monitored is gone. That's my opinion.
Very interesting. Mr. Stubblefield.
Like so many things we're facing today, there's going to be two polarized views of this. I don't think we can revert back to what our great-great-great-great-grandparents were in the days of Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone. There's going to be a balance between security and freedom. Several states have started wrestling with this. The flock cameras say anything, if you keep it from 30 days, that is reasonable. Anything over 30 days, you're building a database that can be infringing upon your rights. States such as Washington State have reduced that to 72 hours as opposed to 30 days. For 72 hours, it's reasonable for surveillance purposes, security purposes. The police say 72 hours not enough, 30 days may be too much. But that's going to be the sort of question we come up with, kind of a black and white. Anything more than a certain number of days, a certain number of hours is going to be acceptable for security. Anything more than That's an artificial way to address it, but I don't see any other way to do it. We all want security. There's not a single one of us that wants security. And I do not think we can live in the aspirational world of what our great-great-grandparents lived in, where there's no threat from outside. So I think there's going to have to find some artificial way of doing it. Anything more than a certain number of hours or days will be acceptable.
Kyler, our producer, had flock camera locations around the country on screen. If you want to bring up again, Kyler, go right ahead, and we'll get that's going on. John Doyle.
I stand shoulder to shoulder with John Gilstrap on this one. Joe, you used an adjective in your explanation, which I think we need to seriously consider. You said, is it worth losing a little liberty? How much liberty is a little? It's like beauty being in the eye of the beholder. I disagree with Mike Carl. I think if I want to go for a walk in a public park and there's no one around, I should be able to sit on the bench and nobody knows that I sat on the bench. Let's say I'm now 25 years old, which was a long time ago, and I'm with a lady that we've just gotten together. And we begin smooching a little bit in this public park, and we do it because no one's around. And all of a sudden, we didn't know there's this camera that catches us. I just think it goes too far.
Back to you, Joe.
Well, John, I mentioned the sacrifice of a little liberty. I was borrowing from that quote. I think maybe attributed to Ben Franklin. I'm not sure. Where when you sacrifice a little liberty for a little security, you end up with neither. And
Franklin.
He said that. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a concern, I think, of a lot of folks, and I know that's where the ACLU is coming down on this. Somebody mentioned the legalities of this constitutionality. I think it was John Gilstrap. That is in play right now because in Norfolk, there was a lawsuit filed. They have 176 flock cameras throughout the city of Norfolk. The civil libertarians filed a lawsuit, and it went through the federal district court, which ruled that that kind of government surveillance was not pervasive enough to raise constitutional concerns. That case will be appealed to the Fourth Circuit, and it's going to run smack into the U.S. Supreme Court decision from just 2 months ago, the Chatry versus U.S. case, where the use of the geofencing data from Google was used by law enforcement, and the U.S. Supreme Court, and I think Justice Kagan wrote the majority opinion, said that that is improper surveillance in violation of the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. The government cannot compile information through geofencing, which we know is where they track the movements of your cell phone. The government cannot use that for law enforcement purposes. So that the battle lines have been drawn as this case in Norfolk percolates up through the federal court system. It will eventually probably run into the U.S. Supreme Court again, and they will revisit this issue as to whether or not the flock camera data is considered equivalent to the geofencing data that Google allows for use, and whether or not Fourth Amendment concerns will trump the offerings of this flock camera company. Bottom line, I think, is that we have to all sit back and weigh the implications of this. This data can be used to determine how often you go to church, what medical offices you're visiting, what medical problems you may have arising from those visits to medical offices. Like if you're going to a chemotherapy center, people right away are going to know you're a cancer victim. And we know how medical information is protected in this country. So the regulations on this information is lacking, as Bill Stubblefield suggested. We're going to have to look at that very hard if flock cameras survive the constitutional challenges going forward. So expect these debates to happen locally in our communities, and they're going to be tough debates to have.
I think it's important to remember these are not passive cameras. With the facial recognition, they can be programmed to, and for however long it's in the database, whether it's 72 hours or forever. Find me where John Gilstrap went and what he did for the last 72 hours or week or whatever the case is. Or you can program it to alert every time it recognizes stubble field somewhere. And it's a very active tracking system. It can be a very active tracking system. And that's just, it's fundamentally wrong.
But John, as you describe it, is fundamentally wrong. But if it can be programmed the other way, it can be much more lax in what its approach. It can be more benign, and it does serve a security. There's an security aspect to it that we all want a part of that security. I
go back to the COVID debacle when we saw what was supposed to protect people, the masking and the social distancing and all that stuff. It was weaponized to come against people who were witnessed not doing those things. There is no upside to increased surveillance of Americans, I don't think.
But as Jeff Haddocks points out, and I think he's exactly right, a lot of what we're pushing back against today is being done all the time with a smartphone or smartwatch.
Just about to make that point.
Exactly right.
You are tracked everywhere you go
everywhere
because you
we
take
go,
this with you, right?
But I can choose not to take it.
Can you though?
He can choose not to take it with him.
Can you though?
Sure.
Can you really choose to not take your smartphone with you when you leave the house?
I do it lots of times.
Most people cannot.
But
right?
that's different than being caught in the act of walking across the street to do a perfectly legal thing.
So I think it's interesting because you think you have to take a holistic approach on this. One, your phone tracks you everywhere you go. I can choose to leave it at home. Great, but can you really? Next, you go walking in your neighborhood. Everybody's Ring doorbell camera captures you, and the Ring doorbell camera captures your property. But it goes as far as the Ring doorbell camera can see.
But the Ring doorbell doesn't call the police when it sees a particular person walking in front of the house.
Well, remember, we had the situation recently with the missing animals and how we found out that I think 100 missing dogs were found because of Ring doorbell photos or camera that was stored up in the cloud, and there was a program that was actively tracking that. Nobody was calling or going into Ring doorbell software and saying, find my dog. It was just kind of happening.
And
right?
But the real
and one more thing here, Bill.
Sure, yeah.
It's the same thing with everything that you do on your computer, your phone, your laptop, and probably with your car as well. And anything that has a computer chip, all of your behavior is tracked and freely sold, which is allowed and permitted by legislatures and governments to go to every marketing agency out there to determine a profile about you that creates the ads that you see every time you turn on your computer. That is completely legal and happens every second of the day.
And that is a big issue, and that's what I tried to allude to. I did not do it very correctly a while ago. It's a time limit to do it. John Gilstrap said a Ring doorbell does not call the police. That is not the issue, though, with front cameras. That is the long-term data accumulation, building a database over a long period of time, and not the instantaneous do or do not call the police that time.
John Doyle, I promised you 30 seconds, go.
Bill, the thing, you're right. You can program it the way you want, but the problem is you leave it up to the government to decide how it's to be programmed.
And right now the governments are allowing everything that you do to be tracked and sold for free. You've got no control over it.
Correct.
So you've already lost your liberty. This is just another degree of it. I'm not
What's
saying,
your point?
Such an optimist.
My point is fight it all. Don't just fight one of them.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right, I'm cool on that. Joe, thank you. Good topic. This is Talk Radio, WRON Martinsburg and TV10. We're back with Bill Stubblefield on the clock next. Joe, let's go around the room. Yes, sir. No, let's go around the room and say good morning once again to our panel. He is a New York Times best-selling author, retired firefighter, safety engineer, king of all that is Netflix, the silent assassin, John Gilstrap.
Good morning, everyone.
Longest tenured member of our crew, attorney at law. He served in the Nixon White House, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning, everybody.
Good to see you again.
Good to be seen, literally, at my age.
He is retired admiral, He is formerly president of the Berkeley County Commission. Got his own institute, Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob. Great to be here.
26 years in the House of Delegates, though not consecutively or concurrently for that matter, as we learned about a month ago. Vietnam War veteran, former Deputy Revenue Secretary of the state of West Virginia, Mr. John Doyle.
Good morning, everybody.
You met the aforementioned Mr. Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti, retired attorney at law. You fully retired now, Joe, or still easing your way in?
I have one file that remains open, and doing my best to wrap that up.
Good luck to you.
My client feels the same way, by the way.
Sure they do.
Let's get it wrapped up.
By the way, I sent you a text on this maybe a month ago. I got my check from the Facebook settlement from their privacy violations, and my cut of it was $6.22.
I guess you suffered just a little harm.
I guess it was just a little harm. You're right. I don't even remember what the suit was over. All I know is I got a letter that said, click here to be involved in the class action suit. I clicked it, and 3 years later, I got a check for $6.22.
Well, I understand that your gross recovery would have been over $9, but your lawyer would have been
he or she, who I never heard of, was well worth the commission.
And the other beneficiaries I have to point out are my former colleagues, the defense lawyers at Bowles Race. The more Ferretti's people that sue people, the more cases we have.
Proving Hannah Geffert's point that everything creates work for attorneys. Right? Yeah. With issue number 2, the Admiral, Bill Stubblefield.
I need some help from my colleagues today, and that's going to be the SAVE Act. Is that a politically driven or is it structurally driven? The president has said that it's the most important issue in front of Congress this year, that if it doesn't pass, the Republicans are going to lose the midterm big time without its passage. The folks that are against it said this is the most draconian law that's in front of us, that much of the that it would be much more restrictive from the federal level than any state level, and that that very few eligible voters, ineligible voters have voted. Now that was before New Jersey, and that was before the computer glitch in New Jersey. So the give and take, and it's fairly clear that the Senate is not going to pass the SAVE Act. But the House has taken a different approach. Instead of using the proverbial stick, now they've gone with a carrot. They are saying that we're going to give $10 billion to those states that play nice with the federal government by giving our voter registration act data to us. So we'll give the $10 billion. That's on top of the $40 trillion deficit that we're already facing now. What are we trying to do with the SAVE Act? Is it a political sweetener to those states that we want to try to appease? Or is it something that as the president says, we absolutely have to have to preserve the Republican election?
All right. Mr. Doyle, why don't you go first on this one?
I don't know why I don't go first, but I will.
All right.
The problem with the SAVE Act is it is heavily political. There is some substance in it that is worth debate. One of the things that Republicans like to do is to say it's only about voter ID. Voter ID is in there, and I don't have a problem with voter ID as long as somebody who doesn't have an ID has to pay to get a picture ID. But there's a lot more to the SAVE Act than voter ID. One of the problems is it's going to be very difficult for someone who years ago got married and got rid of her maiden name, and the hospital where she was born is out of business, and she maybe can't find an original birth certificate. It's going to be very difficult for her to prove she is who she is. Another major problem is it's trying to ban, if at least severely restrict, and I think the intent is to ban mail-in ballots, because President Trump rails to the high heavens about mail-in ballots. And there are a number of states that rely heavily on mail-in ballots, and I contend the Constitution says that's their call. So, yes, I think there is substance to the act, but the debate on it is almost entirely political.
Mr. Carl.
Well, the whole purpose of the SAVE Act is to counteract and to correct the horrible problem that the Democrats created by eliminating the border. And so the details, there can be debate about some of the details of the process, but the principle of it is to offset the disaster that the Democrats enabled by letting the border open.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, the SAVE Act is proposed legislation that collapses of its own weight. So to answer Bill's question right now, it's more political than substantive, because substantively, you're not going to eliminate mail-in voting when the Constitution specifies that time, place, and manner of voting is a state matter, not a federal matter. So immediately there's going to be constitutional challenges if this legislation ever sees the light of day. Secondly, there's other provisions in here which should strike fear into people. Criminal penalties against county clerks who make mistakes and maybe, like they did in Jersey, have some people registered to vote who shouldn't be registered. Criminal penalties for those folks. And then there's the issue with the requirement under the law that all states turn over to the Department of Homeland Security the voter rolls. Now, in 17 jurisdictions, the federal government has lost in court with their efforts to get the states to compel them to turn over those voter rolls. We know what happened in Georgia. That's being litigated right now. We know what happened in West Virginia, where our own Secretary of State said, no, you're not getting that information. In a ruby red state, by the way, with a Republican Secretary of State at the helm. The correct choice was, no, you're not getting that information. So there's a lot of aspects to this SAVE Act that is just, again, causing it to stall in the Senate, where it's going to die. It has to be reformed. And there's another thing I firmly believe. If Trump was told, look, this could pass tomorrow, but there's no way we're going to implement it for the 2026 election coming up in 3 months, he would probably walk away and throw his hands up, because that's what this is about. He wants to try to institute something immediately. He's not going to get it, and he's going to declare an emergency of some sort when this election actually happens, and we're going to have a mess on our hands. But the bottom line is the legislation as currently constructed just cannot pass.
Mr. Gilstrap.
I don't think there's any hope or expectation that anything will be done for the 26th election. If anything, it will be for the 28th election. I find it remarkable, and I try so hard not to delve into whataboutism, but it's sometimes so very difficult. The Democrats were fine with completely wrecking the American healthcare system with the, well, pass it and then you can read it, the 1,100 pages of nonsense that were Obamacare that we're still recovering from. That was okay. But now we cherry pick what is, I think, the specific elements of what I hope we can agree is a good idea for legislation, and that would be to make sure that only American citizens vote. I don't think we have that level of agreement in Washington. If we had that, then we'd just figure out a way to work out the details, right? There are problems with the Save America Act, whatever it's called. The idea that you have to produce a birth certificate to prove your citizenship. Just read a statistic that apparently 13% of Americans, legal Americans, would have a hard time coughing up that kind of information. Okay, that's a problem, and I agree that's a problem. But it's also a problem. The 6,600 New Jersey residents were qualified as voters through a computer glitch, and that 400 and change actually voted. That's enough to change congressional districts. And let's face it, that's how this government has changed. That's how either party gains power, is by winning one vote at a time, by one vote at a time. The Democrats, is it politicized? Yes, but it's politicized by the Democrats. They're trying to demonize the idea that to have to be an American is somehow xenophobic or racist. And that's just fundamentally wrong. If we could agree in principle, and I'm not talking about this SAVE Act as it's written, I think it's dead. I don't see a way for it to get out. But if we can use this as the launching platform to actually have a sane discussion that is let's target after 2028, right? Because that's the big concern, that y'all think somehow Trump is going to get reelected. If whatever we pass doesn't become effective until 2029 and moving forward, okay. But we've got an issue, and if it's 3 votes, or we look at the margin by which elections have been decided, certainly since 2000, and perhaps before that. I wasn't paying terribly close attention before that. They're razor thin margins. So individual, if it's just a handful of votes, 6,600 times 50 states is, I can't do it in my head, it's a lot of votes. And it's enough to change everything. So if we can agree, and maybe I should poll the crowd here, do we all think that there should be some proof of citizenship, even if it's just, if we change the real ID on the driver's licenses to include nationality, verification of nationality, would that be enough? I don't know.
The SAVE Act, I've heard so many different stories on this. Somebody here in the room maybe knows the answer. I've heard driver's licenses or ID would not be acceptable.
Correct.
That has to be a passport.
Or birth certificate.
Is that accurate?
I wanted to respond to John Gilstrap.
Do we have an answer on that, by the way?
That is true.
Passport or birth certificate?
I think that's true, yes.
Real
Or
ID?
nationalization papers.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to point out, technically, the 400 votes in New Jersey were statewide. They were spread across the state.
So?
Okay, I do think it's wrong, and the fault, I think it's important to understand, was not with their elections office. It was in the DMV.
I don't care.
Yeah,
No, that's an important point.
No,
though,
they
John.
should not have been allowed to vote.
The fact you institutionalized, you're trying to say there was some justification what was done in New Jersey. That was not. It was a computer accident.
In New Jersey. It doesn't matter. It could have been in Connecticut. I don't
But
care.
it did not happen in Connecticut. That one time, the example you're using, others using, New Jersey, and it was not institutionalized.
Last week, the drumbeat here, because I brought up this topic, I think it's somebody discussed this topic last week. The issue was, this doesn't happen in America. It's not a problem. Now, at 6,600, well, it's not every state. We've only found it in one. We have to, I think, embrace the notion that this is not a political issue. This is a constitutional issue, and we need to fix it. And take a deep breath.
Final thought, Bill?
Yeah, you said it was politicized by the Democrats.
Yes.
The Democrats have contributed to it. But when the president says we have to pass this to keep from having a disastrous midterm election with Republicans losing, that's not politicization, John?
That's Trump bloviating.
No, second. Yeah. So you're saying what Trump says is not politicization, what the Democrats say is politicization. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I can, because you're it's not
That's a great comeback.
what one man said.
I can have my cake and eat it too.
What's the sense of having cake if you can't eat it?
the president's words are not the legislation.
And by the way, I said in my little spiel, I'm okay with voter ID, to answer the question you asked.
I'm not okay with it being passport or birth certificate. I have a real ID from the DMV, and that should be acceptable.
If the real ID somehow is tied into nationality, I can't. There's got to be a way
Yeah,
to
and-
trace these people. It's only 13% of people would have a hard time producing this.
Only 13%.
That's
everyone has
and
the
I'm
right
saying,
to vote.
I
Everyone has
agree.
the right
I
to
agree.
vote.
But there has to be a way that is simpler. Because not 13%. So I'm not.
How is a birth certificate a secure point of ID?
Because it shows that you were born.
It just shows it's a piece of paper that.
Yeah, you can
says
fake
that.
it.
That's so easily fixed or faked on the with a printer. I mean, how would that be legitimate? It doesn't even have my picture on it.
It has a seal on it. That's how you get a passport, is through your birth certificate.
I could fake a birth certificate with minimal skill.
Well, I guess. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, you can.
Of course, but yes, anybody can intentionally break a law, and then you punish the breaking of the law. But you don't say, well, because everybody.
Well, then apply that to people who voted when they shouldn't have.
Anybody can steal apples from the apple cart, but that doesn't mean you legalize stealing from the apple cart.
Well, then apply that to the people who voted illegally. Why do we need to change the entire system because a couple hundred people voted
We're not
illegally?
changing the system. Says that you have to be a citizen to vote. All we're doing is putting in the.
It doesn't say you have to have a
mechanism that happens.
passport to vote.
No, it says you have to be a citizen, and how else do you prove? And I think that's a weakness. I don't know. I don't have the answer. That's why I think we need to agree on the principle that it's a good idea to make sure that only Americans are voting in American elections.
We agree on that.
Yeah, we agree on that.
So the rest is details. But we got to make it happen.
The other thing we agree on is you can have your cake and eat it too, or else why have cake? Issue number 3, Mr. Gilstrap.
I read an article in the Wall Street Journal this morning that we each submit 3 ideas, and this cemented it for me, which idea I'm going to do. The Ukrainians just used a transport drone to deliver dozens of anti-personnel explosive drones into Russia. So these things they're all run by AI, right? So you have this I guess undetectable, it certainly flies under the radar, unmanned drone, drops off a couple of dozen of things that are going to go out and they're going to kill Russians. Okay, I don't have a problem with that at all. But it goes to the importance and the growing importance of artificial intelligence in terms of handling national defense. And not certainly theirs, but I hope we're developing similar technology for the homeland, right? So we've had data center arguments here ad nauseum. We all know that I'm not a huge fan of data centers in my backyard. I'm fine with data centers in your backyard.
I love your honesty. I do.
So I'm a NIMBY guy all the way. But now we hear about this. They put it in terms of Kobayashi Maru in the what's his name, the guy in the morning computer. Anyway,
We'll get it.
That we had there was a test being done by OpenAI to try to accomplish something, and there are guardrails that are put around these things, and the AI program broke through the guardrails to hack into another AI program, Chuck Palm,
yeah.
to grab data and then solve the problem on its own. It did this without direction, presumably in a room that didn't have connection to the internet.
With no back door.
Right. So, I did watch The Terminator, and I didn't like it. Well, I love the movie. I didn't like where it went. So I guess my question is, have we reached the point where AI, which is all about the decision-making, targeting, and we'll just go to targeting, in a fraction of a second, far faster than a human can make the decision, should there be human intervention every time an AI bot decides that that this is the target we need to attack? And maybe on the larger scale, is the whole AI issue part of the national defense industrial complex now, and do we have to protect it as such? For example, should we have high barbed wire fences around what I hope will be a lovely AI center on Beddington Road, or better yet, somewhere else?
All right, I need brief answers, 30 seconds each. Joe Ferretti, go.
Well, we've got a lot to figure out here, and I'm not comfortable with our congressional leaders right now leading the charge to have regulation in place. But I will just say this. There was a Canadian professor who really foreshadowed this whole situation with AI. And he said the answer is that a maternal instinct has to be built into AI so that it does not become aware and kill us all like in the Terminator movies.
John Doyle, 30 seconds.
John Gilstrap's question, my answer is no, not until Vladimir Putin pulls his troops back to the real Russian-Ukrainian border, and we begin serious peace negotiations without any Russian troops on Ukrainian soil. after we get that done, yeah, we can come up with some corrections.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, I'm confused somewhat in where AI is going. A lot of us are. The various states have expressed some concern, and they tried to enact some curbs, some guardrails to AI. The federal government says, no, 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 no. It should not be the states. It should be the federal government. We're going to do it ourselves. Well, we look at our Congress. What are they able to do? And the answer is zilch. So right now we're in this tug of war. It should not be the states' rights. It should be the states doing it. It should be the federal government. Yet the federal government is incapable of providing any guardrails right now. So we're down this path, and we're going to be doing what Anthropic did, police their own, say we're not going to leave it up to DOD to utilize our software to use any way they want to. We're more concerned about what it does to human rights or the human population than what DOD is.
Mr. Stubblefield, that was a very succinct and well-developed point. Mr. Carl.
Well, as a person on this panel with the least technology capacity and knowledge, AI is just a scary threat to me. And how the details are something I really can't weigh in on very much. But I will say, talking about Ukraine, of Trump's holding back and not leading the charge against Russia is my biggest problem and objection to his record.
Back to you, Johnny G.
The issue, I don't really see the tie-in directly to Ukraine on this.
You brought it up.
Well, only because of the capabilities that AI has, and that happens to be the war where it's being deployed. I think that we as a nation need to wake up to the idea that the technology is not a threat. It's the abuse of the technology that's the threat. And I can foresee a circumstance. This is what I do, right? Is I make stuff up and I imagine stuff. But in a situation where AI suddenly it changes the IFF, the interrogation friend or foe thing that tells you whether or not the guy coming in is a good guy or a bad guy, and it just switches it. So we end up in a battlefield where good guys are shooting each other and they defeat themselves. This is all being developed by kids in basements, right? And then I find it all very frightening, and there has to be some regulation. I have no idea what it would look like.
Scary discussion. And Mike Carl, based on what you said, I think you know more than what you're letting on. Because you're right, it is scary.
That happens sometime.
Hey, we are back with John Doyle and Mike Carl on the clock next as we continue.
Hi, Crescia Hornby here. Larry DeMarco, broker of Modern Realty Results, believes he has some of the best real estate agents in the Eastern Panhandle. Agents at Modern Realty Results have years of experience and knowledge of the local real estate market. Agents within the office work as a team to provide quality customer service. We strive to always ensure client satisfaction through handling every transaction with honesty and integrity, all while offering competitive rates. Modern Realty Results is veteran-owned and managed. Please call us at 262-4222, modernrealtyresults.com.
Providing reliable protection since 1877, we are Farmers and Mechanic Insurance Companies. For over a century, we have been dedicated to provide dependable insurance protection and excellent customer service. We specialize in auto, home, farm, and business insurance. Our products are backed with personal, hands-on service. You can trust us to protect what matters most to you. For all of your insurance needs, there's Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies.
John's Pool Supplies, your local one-stop shop for all of your swimming pool needs. Located at 237 Eagle School Road, John's Pool Supplies has over 30 years of experience and a large selection of products, services, and supplies for your pool or hot tub. From custom liner installation and pool inspections to free water testing, call John's Pool Supplies at 304-267-2000 or go to johnspoolsupplies.com.
With 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states, Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%. Parsons' goal of financing for all, and Parsons' famous above-market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
Fort Evans Archery and Muzzle Loading is your full-line stocking dealer of modern inline muzzle loaders by CVA, Traditions, Knight, and Remington. Featuring a large selection of traditional sidelock muzzle loaders by Thompson Center, CVA, and Traditions, which are used in the West Virginia Heritage Season. Fort Evans Archery and Muzzle Loading is your local dealer for black powder by GoEx, Schutzen, and Swiss, and is the stocking dealer of Blackhorn 209 powder. Come visit our 3,000-plus square foot showroom at Fort Evans Archery and Muzzle Loading, 998 Arden Millville Road, Suite 2 Inwood, fortevans.com. From breathtaking outdoors to unique local eats, world-class geocaching, and thriving local culture, Martinsburg, Berkeley County, West Virginia is where you can live your adventure. Berkeley County offers fantastic outdoor experiences, from our rugged hiking paths to scenic nature paths, public parks, fishing streams, and nature preserves. Cap off your outdoor adventures with a stroll through historic downtown Martinsburg. Join us and immerse yourself in our rich local history and scenic surroundings. Check out upcoming events and plan your adventure at travelwv.com.
The Eastern Panhandle is home to teachers and healthcare workers, farmers and fishermen, servicemen and women, golfers, bicyclists, and people who love the outdoors. Where we call home isn't any one thing, so we're not either. At Rosedale Funeral Home and Cemetery, we are honored to help you plan a celebration of life that reflects one's individuality.
Our trusted local team is here to see that your wishes are honored and that your special story is told.
I like the layout of the course very much. I think it challenges the low handicappers and is very playable for the mid and high handicappers.
All different levels can play on this course.
I think it challenges you from the get-go.
And the first tee program here is one of the best, if second to none. It is the best in the state of West Virginia.
The men have a league, the women have a league, the kids have things going on. Like, it really is kind of the whole package here at Locust Hill. Everybody's very welcoming.
Love the folks here that play golf. Built a lot of great relationships and friendships with people here.
You know, sometimes you can only judge a course by their members. We have a great core membership here.
I was able to build some fantastic relationships here, and that's why I've been here for 30 years. When you join any club, you're joining to play golf, but you're really paying for the experience. And the experience here at Locust I found to always be a good time and a fun affair.
To schedule a tee time, become a member, or see upcoming events, visit www.locusthillgolfcourse.com or call us today at 304-728-7300.
When will I be able to retire? How do I make the most of the money I have? How do I leave a lasting legacy to my loved ones? I'm Philip McCoy, financial advisor with the Mirius Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services Incorporated. Call us today at 304-263-4343 to help you make the most of your financial future. Our office is located at 1270 Winchester Avenue, Martinsburg, West Virginia.
Ameriprise Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC.
We are produced by Kyler High, Kyler Aces High. Brought to you by the Mirius Group of Financial Advisors, John Everson and Phil McCoy, Winchester Avenue, Martinsburg, and by WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center, Jefferson Medical Centers. We welcome back to Friday 5. That includes New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrap.
Good morning.
Longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning.
The Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
Hello.
Vietnam War veteran John Doyle.
Hello.
Attorney at law Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers to you. And now with issue number 4, Mr. Doyle.
West Virginia got hit with some severe storms earlier this week, and in particularly the area around Weston and Buchanan and Clarksburg was very, very hard hit. I think something like 1,000 homes were damaged and lots of businesses, and we're going to need some serious help there. This is probably, I think, the first major task for FEMA since Mark Wayne Mullen became Secretary of Homeland Security. So we will see how FEMA performs. Governor Morrissey has asked for made a state declaration that all 55 counties were under emergency. He has requested that of the federal government. We will see how the federal government responds. They may not declare it for all 55 counties. I certainly hope they declare it for the half dozen counties in this area, which was apparently the hardest hit, although we're still learning about stuff in other places. So my question to the panel is, will FEMA be up to the task under its new Homeland Security management?
Mr. Gilstrap?
How would I possibly know? I have no idea how to answer that question. FEMA will, its role is actually fairly limited in these circumstances. It's to provide emergency equipment and emergency shelters required to. It's among the things that it can provide. But I remember we had a discussion here during the last big floods in the southern part of West Virginia, and I forget who's the guy who routinely, is he a Mountaineer barbecue guy?
Travis Bishop.
Travis Bishop,
yeah.
And they sent a lot of, he loaded up a lot of stuff and went down, and FEMA, according to him, and forgive me if I've misquoted you, Travis, almost got in the way because you have citizens who are taking care of things. FEMA sent a lot of generators, but they didn't send any gasoline for the generators. So he was providing the gasoline for the FEMA generators, that sort of thing. So I don't know what we expect of FEMA, but going your question specifically with Mark Wayne Mullen, I have no idea.
Mr. Carl?
Well, I share the no idea point, but FEMA, I don't expect them to do any better than they've done in the past, which is, reflects their bureaucratic limitations. So hopefully they will. I agree with John that they will at least help the counties that need the help.
Mr. Stubblefield, you were a federal government employee. Are you coming to their defense, sir?
I am. I'm coming to their defense. FEMA is primarily a coordinating role. We have a bunch of these independent folks going down. They serve the first person they see. There's the folks the next tier or third tier down that are that need coordination, such as what FEMA provides. You say they don't do any good. Ask what Houston. Ask the work they did in Houston. Ask what they did in New Orleans. Ask what they did in Carolina, even though that and in Tennessee. There's been a lot of success stories. What scares me a little bit about FEMA being in position now to support the level they should is FEMA's workforce has dropped by over 23,000, by over 10% of employees in the last since January the 1st of 2025. Over 10%. Their obligations, FEMA obligations to West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Pennsylvania has dropped by over 1/2 in the last year. The Trump administration tried to block hundreds of millions of dollars to the BRIC funding, the building infrastructure and community funding that they have that depends upon FEMA. The dollars are drying up in both manpower and actual money goes to the people. Will they be able to continue the job that they have done in the past? And I disagree with you, Mike Carl. I think they've done a darn good job. Will they continue? Is going to be in question.
But FEMA, their responsibilities, just pulled it up here after a flood, reimburses governments for debris removal, emergency protective services, and there's a list of things. It's a fund to reimburse individual assistance for temporary housing, rental assistance. This is money. This is boots on the ground kind of thing. Small Business Administration loans, low interest homeowner loans, and business recovery loans, and then some funding for hazard mitigation. FEMA has a role certainly in making communities whole, but FEMA doesn't have a huge role in having in the initial management in the aftermath of an emergency.
I think the folks in Katrina in New Orleans and the folks in North Carolina would disagree with that, John. They were boots on the ground. They were in there carrying a lot of the heavy lifting.
Let's go back to the panel here and Joe Ferretti, who hasn't had a chance yet. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, John's question was, is FEMA going to be successful here going forward? And Bill was right to point out that success is going to depend upon on their manpower. And even before we lost those people, including senior staff, Bill, the General Accounting Office issued a report saying that FEMA was understaffed. And since then, we've lost about 12,000 people plus senior staff. We've had a president who's conditioned, allegedly, because it's a lawsuit right now, but there's 25 states suing the federal government because of the allegations that the president has conditioned the receipt of FEMA aid on the state's compliance with his immigration policies and his election law pursuit. So, it's become a political football, unfortunately, but FEMA has a vital role to play. My daughter's an emergency room physician. She's part of the emergency response team that goes into places like Western North Carolina to try to find people who might need medical care, who might need life-saving support, in addition to other services that FEMA provides. So I think it's vital. And I think if you believe that the state of West Virginia is going to go down there and clean up Buchanan on its own, take a look at our state budget, please.
Mr. Doyle, back to you.
Yeah, the cuts in FEMA that have happened, most of them happened when Kristi Noem was Homeland Security Director. When Mark Wayne Mullen became our secretary, when Mark Wayne Mullen took over, he said he was going to make some significant changes. One of which was Kristi Noem had the habit of every application that came in would just sit on her desk until she got home from her flights of fancy on that private jet and then got to look at them. Mullen promised in his confirmation hearing that this was no longer going to happen. And I think he has instituted that change. There are other changes he has instituted. This is what I want to see. What differences there might be in FEMA's reaction to these floods in West Virginia from a year ago in Texas. And I think we'll be able to see whether or not Mark Wayne Mullen has instituted significant improvements. That's why I brought this up.
Bill, you needed to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I just responded to one of the comments. Yes, John Gilstrap has me wound up today.
I looked over there and you were shaking. You were laughing so hard. A note from the city of Martinsburg. A donation drive will be held Monday and Tuesday this upcoming week to help flood victims. Area residents can drop off donations at the Spring Mills Walmart from 9 a.m. until 2 in the afternoon, Monday and Tuesday. The collection event is a collaborative effort by Berkeley County First Responders and the County Commission. They're requesting cleaning supplies, hygiene items, and hand tools, including mops, brooms, bleach, trash bags, work gloves, diapers, toilet paper, extension cords, fans, air mattresses, shovels, and rakes as well. Also, this is the Friday at 5 in the town square tonight from Main Street, Martinsburg, and the Farmers Market. And they are also doing a collection as well from the city of Buchanan. They have stated extension cords, fans, air mattresses, toilet paper, more of the same, paper towels, non-perishable food items, Gatorade, paper plates, plastic, silverware, regular size, trash bags, mops, brooms, shovels, Clorox wipes, by the way, and you can bring those downtown to the farmers market as the city of Martinsburg is collecting with in collaboration with Main Street Martinsburg on that too. You can call the city for more information if you have any additional questions.
If I can
yes, please
throw in real fast here, and this is not, the context might be awkward, but Brandon Wonder was on yesterday, the emergency coordinator for Jefferson County. It's just anybody who's out there, and again, there's no victim shaming here at all. Things happen, but if everybody needs to have a plan for what they do in the event of an impending disaster. Bill, I don't think you or I have to worry about floods so much, but certainly forest fires could be a real issue, right?
Very much so.
So everybody needs to have an active plan with your family. If you're separating different places, where are you going to meet? Have stuff in your car that will get you through a day or two. There's no property that is worth dying for, and when stuff happens, you need to have that plan, because panic more than anything else kills.
And Mr. Gilstrap spent a number of years as a firefighter and EMS responder, so he has experience of which he speaks.
And he speaks wise.
He does.
On that subject, John.
Only one in the day.
I agree with most of them.
Issue number 5, Mr. Carl.
Okay. Liberal Democrats, DSA, are calling for, among other things, elimination of the U.S. Senate. And as a result, I say they do not understand the unique co-sovereignty underlying the United States of America. What do you think?
All right, let's start via telephone with Mr. Joseph Ferretti.
If the Senate was eliminated, would we miss them?
I think you just made the open, Joe.
I sure would. Especially Senator Capito.
Well, yeah, if they were actually productive. But look, there's this concern about the DSA. I think the political party that figures out why socialism is taking root with some people, as opposed to an effort to just demonize them and portray them as uneducated and certainly off their rocker. I think the political party that figures out why there's this undercurrent of concern about capitalism and the way things are in this country is going to be the party that serves our country best.
That's a very good take, Joe. I'll just say this. My oldest son is 32. He spends a ton of time in D.C. with other people in their 20s and 30s. This age group is buying into this, and they have their reasons for it, and they're becoming more and more anti-capitalist because of the reasons that they're citing, which include too many people at the top having the money.
Yeah, we saw the same thing 15, 20 years or so ago, except it was called Tea Party. And there was a movement against the traditionalists, if you will, by the Tea Party. The ones on the left looked with great fear. And look what it's involved into. It involved into MAGA. You may not like MAGA, but you have to recognize that MAGA has a major political force just now. Will DSA, Democratic Socialists, evolve in the same thing? Time will tell. But you cannot, I think, discount them by doing or promoting something which you, as an individual, do not agree with. We do not. Many of us do not agree with the Tea Party, but yet it has some very strong, positive elements to it. You may not agree with DSA, but as you pointed out, Rob, your son and his age group sees value to it. So I think instead of dismissing it and condemning it, we need to look and see what's driving it.
We need to look at DSA is about the nationalization of businesses. It's about the nationalization of housing. It's about taking from people that they deem has too much and giving it to people who don't have enough. They're talking about guaranteed minimum income. They're talking about the fundamental socialist issues that have never worked, ever, in the history of ever. But it's the idea of getting free stuff. And I don't think these people I don't think the DSA, the socialist folks, who, by the way, was dismissed by the left as not a real thing. They're just going to go away. Now they're gaining more and more traction within the Democratic Party. And the traditional Democrat, the mainstream, whatever is the right word, the old school Democrats are leaning in toward them because they recognize that as a future. If this country sloughs toward the nationalization, if Zoran Mamdani is the model for this country, it becomes Venezuela. We need a capitalist state in order for a democratic republic to run.
Mr. Doyle.
The more things change, the more they are the same. Bill pointed out that the rise of the Tea Party, which morphed into or evolved into MAGA, in about 100 years ago in this country, socialism was alive and well. During the Great Depression, a whole lot of people had become convinced that capitalism was not going to work. And it was Franklin D. Roosevelt and the New Deal that prevented that. We must remember, the stated purpose of the New Deal was to save the capitalist system. And had they not done the New Deal, this country very well might have become socialist at the time. We're in a similar situation where we have tremendous disparity between the income and wealth of those of the few at the top and the income and wealth of the many at the bottom. I think it was 10 years ago. Somebody can check these figures. 59% of Americans were considered middle class by economists. It's down to 52% now. This is still okay right now. But if we were to drop down to 40% of Americans being middle class, I'm telling you, this idea of socialism would really be taking hold. I'm not finished, John. Now, in terms of the elections, so far it is only in solid blue districts that DSA people have won primaries. These are districts that a Democrat is going to win in November no matter what. Just like 15, 20 years ago, most of the victories of the Tea Party people were in districts that any Republican was going to win. So I think we have to look at that. The danger for the Democratic Party is if the Democratic Party allows DSA people to win, for example, in Michigan, where there is a Senate race in the primary this coming week between a DSA person and a centrist Democrat. If that DSA person, Abdul El-Sayed, wins, the Democrats will lose the Senate seat in Michigan in November. And that is something that the Democrats have to have if they're going to win the majority of the Senate. So anyway, I do think the Democratic Party has to be very careful, but I think most Democrats are waking up to that. And the reason I say that is, in every purple district we've had so far, where there's been a race between a centrist Democrat and a DSA person, the voters have wisely chosen the centrist.
Yeah, John's exactly right with Michigan, and the Democrats realize the risk, the danger, but I'm not sure it's resonating. The polls still suggest the DSA candidate may win.
Mr. Gilstrap.
Again, dynamic analysis. When 59% of America was middle class, and before that, probably even more, we were an industrial country. The New Deal worked in the long run.
No,
listen.
59% 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay, fine. Then it'd be even more before that. And that's when we were an industrial nation. The New Deal was corrected by a great big war and the birth of the military-industrial complex that employed everybody. And then we became a nation of factories. And then we had these socialist ideals that everybody needs to get paid as closer to what the CEO is making. In comes the unions. The union workers become too expensive. The factories go overseas, and now we don't have those factory jobs that pay the minimum wage or the middle class living wages. So I mean, there's a cycle here, but in each case, it's the what I would call the socialist drive, and I think unions are socialist related. That's what ultimately ruins the economic model one way or the other. It's a sine curve. Will it come back? I don't know, but it's certainly not going to come back if we start nationalizing industries.
Your history is deficient. The unions are actually part of capitalism. That is one of the things that saved capitalism, is if unions are successful in getting fair treatment for employees, you don't need the federal government to come in and do it.
And then it goes too far. It morphs into give me more free stuff.
Mr. Carl, you get to wrap it up.
I'm rooting for DSA to keep the Republicans in control of Congress.
And that could happen, Mike.
Is there a connection you would draw for a government that would take stock in corporations to control their behavior?
Amplify. Explain that.
Well, if DSA's stated goal is to take over corporations, what is the difference between that and a government that would require a company to give it a certain amount of stock shares?
Didn't we do that with? Didn't President Trump do that with NVIDIA and some of the others?
Yes, well, that's my point.
Your point.
Is that not
Exactly.
the same thing as government taking over, or at least taking a stake to influence a company to behave a certain way?
I'm not comfortable with the government investing in. The investment in private industry is when they put out contracts for the products that are provided by private industry. That should be the investment. But for the United States, for any government to buy stock, I think is a mistake.
But you got to enable free enterprise. That's what government's main job is on that.
Which means that include to the families? Free enterprise, the benefit of the families?
Families are involved with and elements of free enterprise.
And those contracts have to be put out for bid.
In a perfect world.
I hear Ferretti chuckling in
a
the
world
background.
that works.
8 seconds for your final thoughts coming up after the final break here. Final thoughts, 8 seconds apiece. Mr. Ferretti, go.
The West Virginia legislature has an agency or commission to address flood mitigation, but they've yet to fund it.
Mr. Doyle.
Yeah, they need to fund it.
Mr. Stubblefield.
I cannot hear what Joe said. Get out, enjoy the weather.
Well, that's the great thing about final thoughts. They're your own. Mr. Carl.
When you were last here, I closed with Go Bucks, and they had a great couple weeks.
Oh.
I'm saying Go Cards.
Keep saying go Bucks. Mr. Gilstrap.
If they were still with us, my father would have turned 100 years old on Sunday, and my father-in-law would have turned 104. Happy birthday to both.
If you can, take part in the drives to help the flood victims that are going on around Martinsburg. Dave Ramsey program is next. This is Talk Radio, WR Martinsburg and TV 10. Have a great weekend and talk to you again in 70 short hours.
5 o'clock somewhere.